we started a hospitality company, and then we grew from 2 restaurants to now we have 5. And by the end of the year, we'll be opening at 10 concept 5-story food hall in St. Petersburg, Florida. A lot of this was just this sense of the universe is bringing me into this for a specific reason. So all I had to do is trust and show up as my best self.
Hey, y'all, you know that box or those labels we like to place upon ourselves? Well, Natalia, our guest today, busted through those labels. She was once a chef, and now she owns a hospitality group. So I wanted to get right into this about what label you've placed upon yourself and how you might be staying within that limit based upon that piece of paper you have hanging up on the wall. So Natalia Levey, welcome on.
Thank you so much. Quite an introduction. Yes, this is something that we got into because Kylie asked me, well, should I introduce you? And I said, well, I don't even know at this point. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a founder of a company. I was trained as a chef, but I don't really work as a chef anymore. So it's like, how do you present yourself to the world? And I asked Kylie the same question, what are you? How do you present yourself to the world? So it just kind of started right off the bat, this really interesting discussion of who we are and how do we present, like I'm a mom and I'm a wife and I'm a daughter and I wasn't born in America. So there's just so many nuances to who we are as people.
As we talk about these nuances in our journey of life, I graduated chiropractic school in 2017. That was only 8 years ago. And it changes. Like in 2017, I was this person. In 2020, I was this person. In 2024, I was this person. And Natalia and I met in a mastermind group, which we're going to talk about the importance of networking in a minute. But we're in a mastermind group together. We've been together for, 3 or 4 years now. And it's probably like the first one-on-one conversation we've had, finally. Finally made it happen. But we're in this group where it is a networking group, and our leader, Jen Gottlieb, likes to talk about this whole you 2.0 and you 3.0. So I feel like as we discuss ourselves and the labels we put ourselves on ourselves, that can be for a certain time period. And then we grow and we get older and we get more experience and we start to transition out of different bubbles that we placed ourselves in, labels that we put ourselves in, and that becomes our version 3.0 of us. But we still are grateful for 1.0 and 2.0 because without those, we would have never got to 3.0.
Oh, yeah. We're actually, we have one restaurant that is called Kojo. And in Japanese, the hidden meaning is continuous improvement. So even though we have all of the businesses and the labels that, we currently are or what we're doing at this moment, it always, I think, to come back to a beginner's mindset, which is huge. And we'll get into that in a minute, I think. But also that the idea of continuous improvement, who you are today doesn't mean is what you will be tomorrow. I actually see a chiropractor once a week. He is a movement specialist and he works on me. And we get into the most fascinating conversations. And we'll always say that every second we are changing because our cells are changing and there's change happening all the time, whether we see it or not, or we want to admit it or not to ourselves. So I think the idea of just not being so tightly wound or attached to a specific label or who we are, I think it just gives us this a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more of a sense of freedom. And I can share a story about how I really got into this idea throughout life. So my husband recently gifted me a 3D printer for just this Christmas. And I really got into it. And the thing about it is that I make so many mistakes because I have never studied, 3D modeling or anything. I didn't know anything. I didn't even turn on I didn't know how to hook up a regular printer. And then I said, I'm just going to go into it completely being fearless and try. And then I started to call all of these little projects that I make little prototypes, And it completely, in the last 6 months, my whole mindset completely shifted, and it has given me so much freedom. And I'm like, you know what? Today, everything that I do is a prototype, and it's okay. And it's open to interpretation, and it's open to improvement. And there's such a sense of freedom in that.
Yeah, you don't feel like you have to produce something perfect the first go around you do it with. And I like to talk about people when they're creating programs, like, look, just launch a program, because that program is going to be changed and manipulated every single time you do it. So it never has to be perfected in the first go around. And if you think that's the case, you're wrong, and it's holding you back. So
that's right. Just get it out there and get feedback, and keep changing it, and keep getting more feedback, and it's okay. Yeah. I think is that permission to give ourselves that permission to try is where so many people get stuck.
And then just expect that you're going to fail. But think about failing in a way of, I'm never going to fail. It's always because I learned something, I can now do this better.
Yeah, I just call it a prototype. You're not even failing. It's a prototype.
Prototype, exactly. All right, Natalia, you went from being a chef to an entrepreneur to an 8-figure entrepreneur to owning not just one restaurant, but multiple restaurants. And I know you're getting like a food court together in Tampa right now. So walk me through the mindset pieces of how you go from chef to where you are today, to you 3.0.
Oh, me 3.0. Oh my gosh. So I was trained as a chef like 20 something years ago in New York City. And my focus, and for the first, I worked with a large company in New York City, and we did breakfast and lunch for the 700 employee law firm. And like about probably 6 months into it, I just had major health issues and I left. And I was very fortunate to become a stay-at-home mom and just focus on family. And then the health issues were continuing, and I found myself being completely immersed in the wellness industry. And I became certified as a nutritionist and a health coach and all the things. And
I did not know this about you.
Okay, yeah. So the focus of my culinary work became culinary nutrition, and I started to work with doctors and their patients, because most of them didn't want me to teach them, like tell them what to eat. They want me to show them how to cook things that they can eat. So that was kind of fun. And then I didn't at the time, have any desire or any dream to be a chef, like at a restaurant or have a hospitality company. And my husband and I, his brother wanted to have a restaurant. So we invested in his restaurant, and then his brother became very ill, and I came into the company and we rebranded, and I basically brought all the expertise that I had in marketing and food photography and PR and all the things into this business. And we started a hospitality company, and then we grew from, at the time, 2 restaurants to now we have 5. And that by the end of the year, we'll be opening at 10 concept 5-story food hall in St. Petersburg, Florida. Yeah, so a lot of this was just this sense of the universe is bringing me into this for a specific reason. So all I had to do is trust and show up as my best self.
And I think that begins the mindset piece is you trusted and you just showed up and did the thing.
That's it. Because I had mentioned I didn't grow up in this country. So I come from the former Soviet Union.
Okay.
Former Soviet Union. And it wasn't the situation where I was exposed to entrepreneurship in any way, shape, or form. It was like conform and just be in the box, like be that specific label. And I think being married to an entrepreneur has really helped me to sort of widen my perspective. And I just became really, really curious. And that curiosity is always driving me forward.
Curious. I love it. Okay. Mindset piece is huge. Just trust yourself. Go out and do the things. And Natalia, has it always been easy?
Oh, yeah. Piece of cake every day. So it's interesting. When I was talking to my therapist a couple of years ago, and she had mentioned to me how, so I'm a boater, so she sort of made this interesting connection that life around us is like an ocean. There will always be a storm somewhere, a hurricane somewhere. Sometimes you'll have sunny days. Sometimes you'll have days that are just everything is crazy around you. And your job is to be a good captain of this boat, to keep yourself steady. And I was just thinking about this yesterday. I get motion sickness. So sometimes there are days that I get nauseous from anxiety, from responsibility, but it's not to say that I haven't learned the techniques to handle it when it comes up. Like I mentioned, I did a lot of studying of holistic medicine through the years and mindfulness approach. So piece of cake, never. Not a day goes by where I don't make commitment to myself to just feel what I feel in the moment and know that it'll pass and then move on.
I made a post a couple of days ago, I think, where I was like, I love what I do, but what I do also makes me cry. And tonight I'm just going to cry. And, I mentioned Jen, her husband, Chris. I had a conversation with him one time, and it was right after I was in this really ugly situation. And he looked at me and he said, Kylie, you have tonight to cry. Tomorrow, it's a new day. You pick yourself back up and you get going again. So if you're at a moment in time where you need to cry, cry. But you have tonight. Tomorrow, you pick yourself back up and you get going again. So
yeah, that's very powerful.
Mindset 101. All right, networking. How big has networking been for you in your business? And as you've gone from chef to hospitality group owner and CEO?
Oh, I everything that we do is built on a relationship. I think the world of hospitality is such a significant example of an industry where relationships mean so much. Relationships with our guests, relationship with our vendors, relationship with our coworkers, relationships with ourselves. How do we show up for the jobs? And especially recently, as we are building this huge, it's almost going to be 30,000 square feet. It's the only food hall that is going to be in the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, and it's going to become just a global destination. But still, just even sharing information about it and making relationships with the community. And we are planning things that for community engagement for the city. So networking and relationships have helped us so much with, whether it's the relationship to get employees, be interested in the company. I'm on the advisory board of the School of Hospitality at the University of South Florida here. So just having that relationship with the school has been great, for us. I guest lecture at the university all the time. And we have a couple of people from the university now that work on my team. I run marketing and branding department for us. And then, oh my gosh, I cannot stress enough how important the relationships are that you build with people.
That's back to where you and I met each other, was in a networking mastermind.
Yeah.
And building out relationships. What has been, when it comes to building out a relationship, it's one thing to say it, it's a whole other to do it. What are some tips you have for building these relationships?
Oh my gosh. So I am a humongous introvert. So that's probably a reason that you and I haven't had an extensive in-person conversation, because you put me in a group of 100 people, 100 strangers, and I will not be comfortable approaching people. Even though in our mastermind, the leadership team they're so great at making people feel very comfortable. And They strategically put us at tables, and and there is icebreaker conversation. So it's very nice to sort of be in situations where you are comfortable to share, and I understand, like I mentioned, I'm an introvert. So for me, it's very challenging to make that first step. But, once there's the ice sort of has been broken, it gets easier. And it's interesting because I had just reconnected with another friend of mine who our kids were in the same school together. And it's been a couple of years. My daughter's 2 years graduated already. And she works for a large foundation here in Tampa. And as we were having lunch, I kind of mentioned to her, I'm like, I'm really introverted. And she said, really? You don't come off that way. It's like you come off very confident and bubbly and outgoing. So it's just interesting, I think, that how we perceive ourselves and how we know ourselves versus how the world perceives us. So I think that sort of giving ourselves that grace that we don't have to be coming into these networking situations is perfect, and just finding that's sort of one point of connection is sometimes it's just enough, or sometimes admitting to somebody that, well, I'm shy today.
I have my 4-year-old just popping in here like joys of summertime.
Hi.
Right? Will you come say hi to my friend? Come here. This one is introverted.
How are you? What's your name?
You say Hallie? Yeah, so we're all introverted. And most of us are introverted in that room, which is interesting because we've put ourselves in a place where we have to force ourselves out of our comfort zone. Meanwhile, it is a safe environment to, have those small conversations. But as an introvert, I always think like we can go put ourselves in these positions. Like, for example, when I go to a conference and I walk into the conference and it's like a 3-day conference, by the end of the 3 days, I'm exhausted. I am beat up. But meanwhile, I can survive for those 3 days. I just have to have a recovery session afterwards. And I think that's a lot for a lot of us entrepreneurs or a lot of us introverts is we can go do the things. We have to go do the things if we're going to be successful. But then we just have a recovery session afterwards and we're good to go.
Yeah, I think that creating that sort of the space, safe space, recovery space, and the recovery processes at home for yourself is really important. Like I do some meditation and I have a infrared sauna that I use, and it's just a conversation with my husband. I just sort of have like these knowing if this is difficult for us to do, to sort of create a set of rituals to decompress and come back to ourselves. It's really important.
Okay, so no excuses when it comes to networking. Build relationships. They're going to help you build your business. Last but not least, investing and utilizing debt. Let's talk about that.
Investing is really important, and it's something that I have learned through my husband. You can look at investment as investment of time and investment of money. I think that each one has its own value. For some people, investing time for like volunteering or being a mentor to somebody. So the investing of time could be valuable. And then investing of money, of course, it is important. It's important to understand where you're investing, and not all financial investments are also going to work out magically, and I think it's part of being an entrepreneur. And whenever we invest financially, you always assume risk. You always assume that it's not 100% of investments are going to work out. But, sometimes investments can be extremely powerful and rewarding. And, we've in our family, we've gone through some failed investments, and then we have some that have been quite successful.
That's the case in like everybody. Because I'm the first generation entrepreneur. Doesn't matter my family. But the fact that I can take the risks, and talking with them about the risks with my family, it's not an open conversation because To them, it's like, oh my gosh, you just did what? But the risks come with great rewards. Not all risks go positive. And not all risks do you see things benefit immediately. They might be some long-term things. Like, I'll give you an example. As I'm saying this, I ran some ads in the beginning of the year to a live launch. I'm really, really good at live launches, but nothing went according to plan this time. Like, we had email disasters, we had text message disasters where people weren't getting their emails, they weren't getting their text messages. Over 50% of people receiving what they signed up for. And when you don't have people attending your live launch, then it just is a complete disaster. So I'm still, like 6 months later, I'm still in the hole from that ad spend. But I'm never going to complain about building an email list, because now I have that email list that I can go back and continue to nurture and sell things when in the moment when I have the creative minds to sell a new program. So you have to look at investments twofold. One, what's the ROI like short term? And then two, what's the ROI long term? And just understand that you're going to make investments that will not have an ROI, period. When I was at an event in Atlanta, one of the speakers got up there and he's like, I'm selling my business for 8 figures, and he still was in that imposter syndrome mode where, like, I'm still this anorexic kid from where I can't remember where he's from, but he's selling his business for 8 figures. And he said, I've lost more money than people have earned in the years in their lifetime. And honestly, I thought about it, I'm like, okay, that's almost like a rite of passage. In order to become 7-figure, 8-figure CEO, you have to accept that you're going to, quote, lose the money. I want to put that in quotes because it's never lost. You've always just learned something from it. And that's just part of being an entrepreneur. Right?
And I think the beauty of it is, like you said, is not, sometimes you're not going to always see that ROI right away. Sometimes it may take a year or 2 or 3, but it's when you look back at the journey is you will understand a lot of the times, in hindsight. And we've had some real estate investments where we've gone in and like, as a business may not have been as successful as we wanted, but then we were on such an upside on the real estate side that it just overall, it's a win, and it's always a win in the experience, and it's always the win in the lessons that you have learned. So it's scary. Like, I understand that making financial investments is very scary for a lot of people, especially if there's a comfort of, getting that continuous paycheck, but it is also, once you sort of get past that fear and start doing, I think for me, investing has always been the safe investment. And then my husband has taught me to kind of look at it from a whole different perspective, and then once I start being okay with a little bit of risk, then I'm able to take bigger risk. But I also think that the bigger risk, the better we show up, and our capacity to show up at that, as us 3.0, it actually stretches exponentially to the investment. So it's interesting. Sometimes, you have to give yourself like this really high financial accountability sort of to become better, to improve, and to show up under new management of this stuff, of the mindset stuff.
I always say, if you're not investing in yourself, why would you expect your patients to invest in you when it comes to my world? So
that's very true.
All right, as we finish up here,
good way to look at it.
What's been the number one lesson you've learned on your journey?
I think the number one lesson is I decide how I will show up. If I decide today that I'm going to show up as a, 8-figure entrepreneur, then that's it. And I just step into that role, and I go on the internet. Thank goodness we have so many resources available to us right now. And then you just learn and you just commit. I think it's making that commitment to your decision and going with it.
So show up as you want to, as the person you're wanting to become. You know, show up as that person now.
Yeah, just make that decision, because nobody else can do that for you, you know. And once you make that decision and make that commitment, you know, you either you find a mentor, or you whatever it is, you learn something, you
make that scary investment.
Yeah, make the investment, go to college, get extra courses, whatever it is. You just make that decision, and that's it. And now you're it, and it is a decision that we make, and it's so powerful that sometimes I'm like, I can't believe that. Like I would not be where I am today. And I'm sure a lot of the doctors who you work with and you yourself, you would not be where you are until you made the decision to show up as the better version of you.
Not just one, but it's like decision after decision after decision. And, you know, at the end of the day where it's like, what's for dinner? I don't even want to make that decision because I made so many decisions already during the day. That's like, I'm just on decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Somebody just bring dinner to my house. So if I was in St. Petersburg, I'm going to one of your places. Where can people find your restaurants, especially this like ginormous food court you're building, which I can't wait to fly across the country?
So yes, you'll have to come visit. I know a lot of our mastermind members that, you know, they message me that when is the opening date? We all want to come. We all want to support you, which I'm so grateful for. So my personal website is Natalia Levey, Levey.com. Our company name is hospitalitygroup.com. So either one of those websites would have all the information on all the projects that we have going on. And thanks for having me today.
Nice. Hey, Hallie, can you say bye? Thanks, Natalia.
Hey, bye.
I am so glad you're here, and I cannot wait for you to access our brand new 3-day event. Whether you can attend it live in September or you're going to get it on-demand status later, it is the place to go to get specific step-by-step instructions on how to build your 10,000 patients practice. We start off with build it, we move to brand it, then bank it, and become it. All in 3 days, less than 9 hours total. So go to event.drkylieburton.com and get your access. Join us live, get on demand. That is the place for you to get these action steps and what you need to do to get started right now and soar. Once again, that's event.drkylieburton.com. See you on the inside. Thank you so much for listening in. I know that every episode comes with golden nuggets hidden inside of it. And if you have loved learning from these golden nuggets, I would be honored and very grateful if you would jump over to your favorite podcast listening platform and leave this podcast a review. These reviews help boost its visibility so that others just like you can help their business and get the tips that you're getting so that we can all reach 10,000 patients, because let's face it, the world needs this stuff. The world needs us now more than ever. So leave a review. I'm very grateful for it. And then I would like to introduce to you my 3 podcast sponsors. The first one is virtualclinic.md. They are a lab hub. If you are looking to order any type of functional medicine labs or regular blood work I love so much, they go through LabCorp, any LabCorp facility in the country. Go to virtualclinic.md and let them know I sent you. The second, if you're looking for regenerative farming and the beef and pork, Starwalker Organic Farms is your go-to. Go to starwalkerorganicfarms.com. Order your beef and pork today. They're my good friends in California. They are incredible people, and I cannot wait for you to support them and get your beef and pork from their farm. Last but not least, my favorite supplement company of all times. They are now rebooted, reloaded, and Dr. Shane Morris is now at the helm, ready to go and take care of all of our orders with no back order problems and incredible new products on the way. Go to systemicformulas.com, create your account, and let them know I sent you. Okay? They have insane products for the microbiome. So when it comes to destroying things, you must rebuild. And they have all the rebuilding pieces that you need. And it doesn't take very much as far as a dosage is concerned to get results. They're my number one product I've been using for several years now. Many of our practitioners have transferred over to them. You get results with your patients and you get them fast. So systemicformulas.com, my good friend, Dr. Shane Morris, leads the way now. It is his and his only. It's his company. We've all been waiting for that day to happen. It's now here. So celebrate with me, go create an account and learn more about their supplements, both here on this podcast and on their platform. So check it out, systemicformulas.com. I'm Dr. Kylie, and I'll see you next week.